we will be able to control and rectify the challenges that we are undergoing as a result of this climate change. The negotiation, which started way back 1999, up to now, I think it is the right time that we, as Kenya, we be part of this by approving this convention so that we can be active and also relevant, and we be part of equals to the other states of Africa. When we met with the relevant ministries, including the Office of Attorney General, it came clearly that there is nowhere that this convention will interfere with our constitution. It is in line with our constitution. It will enhance what we had approved as this house way back in 1999 when this house came up with the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, which assisted this country to ban any wastes as a result of plastic. As we can remember very well, that there was a need that we control plastics and any waste that will be bringing or interfering with our environment and the lives of Kenyans. As per Article 42 of our Constitution, guarantees each and every Kenyan to a clean and healthy environment. So this convention will enhance that rights.
I hope you do understand by the rules that you have only 5 minutes, so you don't have any more than 5 minutes. It's only the mover who has 20 minutes and everybody else has 5 minutes in this particular motion. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Believing that I am still within, because I am just making some very little contribution over the same in support of the mover. So I was saying, Honorable Speaker, Article 42 of our Constitution guarantees each and every Kenyan clean and healthy environment. So this convention will enhance that. Same to Article 69 of our Constitution that gives power to our state to eliminate anything that is going to be harmful to the lives of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, if this House will approve, it will give a new image to this country, and we shall be equal with other countries that have approved this. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second this motion. Thank you.
Honorable members, I now propose a question that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining on its consideration of the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and control and the control of transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, the 4th of May 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8, subsection 4 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act of 2012, approves the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. The Member of Parliament for Funyula first, and then the great will naturally come in here.
Honorable Speaker, as I stand to support, I support with the reservations. And my reservations are based on the text of the report itself and nothing else. Honorable Speaker, this is a document that was signed, that was originated and negotiated in 1991. 1991 up to now is several years, close to 30 years, Honorable Speaker. I really do not understand or believe that the context, the text, the terminologies, the remedies they offered, the manner they opted, they intended to cure, are still relevant and valid for now. Everybody will be wondering how it has taken Kenya all those years. It has taken the government all those years to bring the same to the National Assembly to basically approve. Second, Honorable Speaker, and the most damaging aspect of this convention, that it has no provision for reservation. Completely. It has no provision for reservation, yet the respective Act of Parliament, that is the Treaty Making and Ratification Act number 45 of 2012, requires the National Assembly may approve the ratification of a treaty with or without reservation. In essence, Honorable Speaker, what the committee is telling Kenyans and this House, that this House is merely a rubber stamp. We cannot raise any reservations. We can either reject or accept. Yet, the Act requires, Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking protection from the temporary Speaker, who is conversing in high tones.
Honorable Ochieng.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This Nyalenya
Proceed.
boy.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, in essence, there is a contravention of the law. Because if you can only have one way and no other way, then what's the purpose of this document coming to this House where we cannot raise any reservations or at all? Honorable Speaker, I really will need further guidance, and probably when the mover will be called upon to reply, we need to guide this House, to guide the country. That was this a false document to us? And if indeed it's a false document, again, Honorable Speaker, the provision to withdraw, and I want to read Article 27, which has Article 27, yes, which has provisions to withdraw. Honorable Speaker, and this is what it reads. At any time after 3 years from the date on which this convention has entered into force for a party, the party may withdraw from the convention by giving written notification to the depository. Withdrawal shall take effect 1 year after receipt. So essentially, Honorable Speaker, it says that if Kenya signs, if we ratify the treaty today, the earliest we can withdraw, because there was no reservation at all, there's nothing we can amend. The earliest we can withdraw, Honorable Speaker, is after whooping 4 years. What if there are very many offending clauses here? What do we do as a country? Do we live with this problem forever? For a full 4 years. Honorable Speaker, the chair of the committee needs to be very candid and tell Kenyans very clearly what we are signing for. And in his moving notes, he has clearly said, Honorable Speaker, if there is anything that Kenya wants to do that probably offends these provisions or this treaty, they can withdraw. What happens 4 years waiting to withdraw? Honorable Speaker, again, the assertion they have made in their report that they are not very strong, that in the committee observations, point number 6, that the present international regional national laws applying to Kenya has proven to be inadequate. So thus the country is therefore in dire need of a law. That's not true, Honorable Speaker. That's an exaggeration. It's not true. So that's why, Honorable Speaker, as much as I support with strong reservations, which I hope they'll be noted, and if there's anything that can be done, it can be done. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable KJ.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. The opportunity to speak to this motion is much appreciated. And Mr. Speaker, I would not stand and contribute to this without thanking the very able chair, the Honorable David Gekaria from Nakuru Town, and the seconder, the Honorable Member for Baringo Central, for Baringo South, for putting such a strong case for this ratification to be adopted by this House. Mr. Speaker, you would understand the passion with which I stand to support this ratification. Because I do understand, Mr. Speaker, that by adopting this ratification, according to our laws and according to the Constitution, it becomes a law of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And I, chairing the Committee of Communication, Information and Innovation, do have a pressing present matter, Mr. Speaker. The issue at hand is e-waste. The waste that accrues from the computers, from the phones, from the technological gadgets that are all being shipped into this country and at the rate in which they are being shipped in. Mr. Speaker, after our gadgets are used and utilized, we find that they find their way to the waste bin in our homes. Then they end up in our garbage pile outside our houses. They are collected and pulled in the small garbage site somewhere around the estate. Mr. Speaker, in this entire journey, all the way to Dandora dumping site and beyond, this waste leaves a footprint of damage, Mr. Speaker. Damage to individuals, damage to animals, damage to the environment, and this is growing at an ever-increasing rate. So, Mr. Speaker, I am keen to support the ratification of this treaty from Bamako that was agreed on in Bamako for that one reason, that we shall be clearing our e-waste, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, secondly, Kenya has an opportunity to race to the front of this race on climate change, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we might not be doing so well with our forest cover, but the new efforts of not only planting a tree, but growing trees, Mr. Speaker, is going to actually catapult us to be one of the greenest countries in the continent if the plan works, Mr. Speaker. If the president's plan of 15 billion trees in the next 4 years works out, we shall easily be one of the greenest countries in Africa. So, Mr. Speaker, as we await the September conference on climate change, under whose banner high delegations shall be meeting in Kenya under the chairmanship of our president, Mr. Speaker, then we have an extra reason to support the ratification of this convention, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I might not want to forget to mention that the waste that the chairman is talking about goes beyond e-waste. There is a lot of hazardous waste that finds itself to Kenya because our borders are ajar and open because we lack such instruments to regulate what comes in. Mr. Speaker, the president of this country had a very personal conversation with farmers at the beginning of this planting season. The president stipulated that there is a brand of fertilizer that has been making its way to this country through cartels who make money out of fertilizer for years on end, a fertilizer that has been banned in many countries around the world, Mr. Speaker. This fertilizer may look good on your crop. However, we might never be able to explain the cases of cancer that are happening at a very increasing rate, Mr. Speaker. This fertilizer was harmful. The farmers agreed with the president. They did not bring in that kind of fertilizer. They brought in the one that the president was recommending. And I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, in your drive around the country, you are seeing the bumper harvest that awaits in this harvesting season. Just because a decision was made that we shall not have people dumping fertilizer in our country, and we use a correct fertilizer, Mr. Speaker, you shall see how good a bumper harvest we shall get this year. And I'm sure the Vice Chair is agreeing with me because his is one of the constituencies that is growing maize using this fertilizer that the president recommended. So, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of sticking to our constitution, in the spirit of managing e-waste, in the spirit of checking what comes into our country, and in the spirit of keeping our country green and clean, I support.
Maybe for the benefit of the members, the chair would want to explain whether this treaty has actually come into force or not. Because the presumption by the honorable member for Funyula is that it's going to take 3 years, although the text says that you can pull out any time. But if it's already come to force, then that any time will not take any time like 4 years from now. So can you, for the benefit of the members, clarify that particular issue.
Honorable Speaker, in my, when I was moving this motion, Honorable Speaker, you know, it came here in 2003. But now it has not come into force in the country until this House approves, and then it goes. Then now when it's, but in other ways, the country has been trying.
As globally, has it come into force globally? Usually a treaty.
Globally, yes.
Yeah, a treaty once negotiated, then it waits for a certain number of member states to ratify, then it comes into force globally. Now, if it has already come into force globally, do we still need an additional 3 years if the nation wants to pull out?
No, the 3 years that Mheshimiwa was talking about, it is when we want to withdraw from this convention. 3
years from ratification or 3 years from coming into force?
I think it is coming into force, Honorable Speaker. It is, yes,
Honorable
there is a notice
MP for Funyula, it's important for Kenyans and other members to understand exactly what we're debating.
Speaker,
yes.
The Constitution clearly says that a treaty or any law, international law only becomes into force upon ratification by the National Assembly.
In our country?
In our country. So it means it will apply the moment this House approves or adopts the report. So that's when the 3 years plus 1 year take effect. For example, if they adopt the report today, it means the first day of the 3 years starts today. That's the application of the law.
Is that provided in our Constitution or it's provided in the
treaty? Constitution.
That 3 years?
No, the Constitution says
it comes into force when we have ratified it.
Yes.
But the global coming into force of the treaty itself is different from the time it comes into force.
And that's why, Honorable Chair, Speaker, if you look at Article 27, it's explicitly clear. And the Chair, when he was moving, was that the obligation to implement the treaty falls to the country adopting it. Okay. And it also says, Article 27 says, that after adoption of the treaty, it takes 3 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. The Honorable Member for Kwanza.
Mr. Speaker, I've sat here and I've listened to the member for Funyula, and I've also listened to the chairman. I think we are talking about the West, the harmful West in this country. Mr. Speaker, you don't have to actually be taken around, you don't have to do anything. Yourself, where you stay and where I stay, you see a lot of this harmful West. And I think as Kenyans, it's the last, in fact, I want to thank you, Chair, for having come up with this confession, and I want it to be implemented immediately. Because, first and foremost, we have suffered because of the side effect of this particular waste that comes in this country, where, Chair, and you know it, we don't have the mechanism and the knowledge to recycle them, to make them useless. All we do is that once this waste comes to this country, Mr. Speaker, you know it, it's just dumped at the Dandora site, yeah? And we have seen actually our boys and girls going to the Dandora site, coming up with these things, removing some of this wastage, and some of them are very harmful. I know of a neighbor who has a cousin there, and by handling those with bare hands, now the hands are actually frozen. I can prove that. So this particular confession, Chair, move with speed to be able to implement it as soon as done, so that it can be able to do what we're supposed to. We have seen recently these droughts that you are experiencing. I come from Transoya. We have had that kind of thing, and Mr. Speaker, it's just a common sense that at least we should be able to move fast, to be able to sign this confession. And I'm happy that it has come, the time has come, and I ask this House, without any reservation, to actually do that, because one, we are not able, some of this waste that come from the developed countries, and you know that, the youth, you know that, some of them come and are useless. You can use it for only 2-3 days or once or a month or whatever, and then they go to waste. All you do, you dump it and buy another one and recycle, so that you find yourself having some of the gadgets here, Mr. Speaker, that are not useful at all. So this confession has come the right time, and this House should be able to look at the environment itself and actually approve, so that from there we can move forward. And I know His Excellency the President is the chairman of the whatever, so that he can be able to move on the same. Chair, I think, Mr. Speaker, I want to support this without any reservation and ask my colleagues, please, let's not bring in issues that are not helping our country. And if one, say, comes from the up country, we take him to this word, what do you call it? Yeah, the dump place. And you can see, Chair, Mr. Speaker, we have that problem, and therefore I support.
The Honorable Dr. Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity to contribute. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important debate, and I actually stand to support while acknowledging our delay, and therefore probably not taking advantage of the recent developments. This Bamako Convention, first of all, I support it because it's in line with all our constitutional and legal provisions. Article 2 of the Constitution, which says whatever we sign is part of our law. 69, which says we must take part to keep our environment safe. The Treaty Making and Ratification Act. So in that context, it's okay. Mr. Speaker, the big issue here is that this convention arises from another convention, which is the Basel Convention, which actually, I think it was in Belgium, but linked to Paris, where the developed countries actually agreed on how to move hazardous waste. However, that was weak. And in countries like ours or Africa, where there is no proper regulation, it made it possible for actually countries, particularly developed countries, to export hazardous waste to Africa. The Basel Convention was actually providing that for that export of movement, there has to be bilateral agreement between the countries. And it excluded some hazardous waste like radioactive materials. Then you immediately don't understand what they are talking about if they include that. So I support the Bamako initiative that came in and made it, the wording is much stronger and actually prohibits and includes things like the radioactive waste. So that it was noted that the Basel Convention was actually exposing Africa and other countries to hazardous waste. If you look at countries without regulation, if you look at countries where there's corruption, it's not inconceivable that people will actually accept that hazardous waste are imported or moved across countries at a cost. And there were cases, like I think in Nigeria, in Ivory Coast, where actually these wastes were found. So I support this. You are saying, when did it come into force internationally? That was sometime, I think, in 1998. A number of African countries have signed. And this Bamako one is basically an African agreement between African countries, which I think is desirable because we are actually the most vulnerable. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the waste that we were talking about, if you talk of e-waste, look at all these computers we use, the laptops we use, the handsets we use. Where do they go? They have to be taken somewhere. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the plastic waste or any other non-biodegradable material, where do they go? So they are actually exporting them to Africa. So Speaker, if you look at things like batteries, whether they're the ordinary batteries that we use that are actually based on acid, that when they're no longer useful, you throw them, but they still contaminate the ground with the acidic material in the batteries, this carbon-based. If you look at things like lithium batteries, those ones actually are radioactive. So these are things we use virtually every day. If you look at medical waste, there are some medical waste that are very hazardous and not easily removed. Where do they go? And some medical waste are actually radioactive. Old X-ray machines, old scanning machines, where do these things go? And these are what we are actually being protected about. Some things we use actually contain mercury, and mercury is long-lasting. It goes in the environment, it contaminates the environment, and it is transmitted to unborn children. So, Mr. Speaker, this is actually a useful convention that we should sign and go with the other African countries that have signed it. I know what we need to do is to actually review it and look at advancements that come, and we amend what we need to amend. I agree with the Honorable Undo that it has come late, but it is something I support, we should sign. Mr. Speaker, people put this.
You can have 1 more minute, yes, proceed.
So, Speaker, these developed countries actually put these materials, then they concrete them, they put them in concrete, they put them in ships. They come and actually load them in our countries, either dig ground and put them, or actually put them in the sea. People are worried. They are all using nuclear energy. Where are they putting their nuclear waste? They don't know where to put them. So they are targeting us. Therefore, a convention like this, in my view, is the only protective mechanism that is in place now, and we should support it and upgrade our activities into it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support signing this.
The Honorable Alice Nganga, followed by the Honorable Memusi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to support the ratification of the Bamako Convention. Honorable Speaker, I don't know what the West country they think of us. You know, they like selling waste material in form of second-hand things. They let it come to the country, they call it, we are selling second-hand phones, second-hand computers, second-hand scanners, second-hand whatever this and that. And they know very well, by the time they were leaving the country, their country, they knew it was a waste. They did not know where to dispose this waste to. So they knew the best way, they knew how, is to dump it here in Africa. And especially in my constituency. I have a dumping site called Kangoki. And, Honorable Speaker, they don't do it during daytime. They wait night. By the time you come in the morning, you find so many waste material, you don't know who brought it, where it came from, what is it for, and then you start realizing people start getting sick, diseases you cannot even explain. Because it has become a dumping site. They ask, I know they have also their cartels here in the country that guides them on where to dump and when to dump it. This ratification is timely. It is on point. We need to pass it immediately to protect our own country. Honorable Speaker, these gadgets are very acidic, very poisonous, both to the soil and to the human beings. And once they dust them, not only those places are used for even for other bad purposes. You find when somebody is killed somewhere, they are dumped at the site over there because they know before these people come, because they come to those places, they stay even longer because it smells very badly. You cannot go there. You cannot touch some liquids that are flowing if you don't know what kind of liquids are those ones. And it's only this Western country who knows what those liquids are all about. So this convention, we need to pass it like yesterday, Honorable Chair, and we thank you with your committee for finding it right and timely to bring it at this particular time to protect our country, our people, and even our farmers. Because once that soil, once you plant, you are wondering why crops are not doing very well. But the soils have already been damaged, poisoned. Nothing can grow out of that soil. And you know, you can think it's only that dumping area that affects that only dumping area. No, because of the climate change and because of the weather, the people from this region, they can smell that waste from another region, and you find they are becoming flu that does not end. You are wondering, where does this flu come from? It doesn't end. Our children are suffering. Even there is one honorable here who is sneezing. It is not here. It is not here, honorable member. It is not here, but it is outside there. So I stand to support the ratification, honorable Speaker, and also to put as a warning to the Western nation. A time has come for Africa to rise, and to rise in a biggest way, in whatever way. Both financially, we are equal to to this task. We can have our own dollars, our own climate change ratifications, and also our own laws to guide us. We don't need to be running everything or getting everything from Western world. We have come of age. We can do things our own way, in our own method. We don't need them to come and teach us on how to do our own things. We know when they don't like us, Honorable Speaker, they only think of Africa when it becomes a dumping site like now. When they want to dump their things, Africa is very important. Oh, let us take this thing. We are helping the needy. We are helping them to have gadgets. We are helping them to have laptops. We are getting them to have phones, schools. And in their hearts, they know that these materials are coming to harm us. They are looking for us, for a place to dump their things and to dump their waste. But we have said no. Thank you, Honorable Chair of this committee, for bringing this ratification timely. Asante sana.
The Honorable Memusi of Kajiado.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Honorable Speaker, let me start by thanking the chair together with his committee for bringing this convention to the House for ratification. And let me say from the onset, Honorable Speaker, that I support. Honorable Speaker, now more than ever, we need to be very careful on how we deal with our environment. We have seen, Honorable Speaker, that if we don't take care of our environment, the devastating effects that causes to us is unbearable. Just the other day, Honorable Speaker, we went through a ravaging period of drought where communities, especially the pastoralist community, lost a lot of their livelihoods. This, Honorable Speaker, will take us a very long time to spring back. Right now, that community is unable to take their children to school. And this is all because of not caring about our environment. We have also seen, as members have talked about here, the rise of diseases, for example, cancer. And this is straining families. Families are having to sell their land. Families are having to dispose of their property to be able to treat their loved ones. All this is as a result of a degradation of our environment. Honorable Speaker, this convention is important as the chair of the committee has moved. And I also challenge the chair of this committee, together with his committee members, to look at local legislation, because just as members have been contributing, it came to my mind that we've not been conscious of where our e-waste is going to. In the last Jubilee regime, the government talked about bringing computers to class 1 students. And scrupulous business people took advantage to bring in substandard computers, and private schools bought these computers, which were conking off after 6 months of use. Where did all these computers go to? Where were they? How were they disposed? All the gadgets that we use, phones that we all use, we might all be on our 10th or 15th phone. Where have all these phones been going to? So I would want to challenge the chair of the Environmental Committee, together with his team, to look at local legislation on how we dispose our e-waste. It is time we start taking care of our environment, because without taking care of our environment, Honorable Speaker, even in terms of food security, we are not secure. We are polluting our soils, and in turn, the same acreage that you used to get 20 bags of maize, for example, you are now getting 5. Land is now producing less. Land is being subdivided. Honorable Speaker, all these things will come to bite us. We will continue becoming poor. So it is time we become very conscious of our environment. With those few words, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in our speakers gallery of Kenyans who live in the States and who have come on a visit to their own motherland and want to see how this august institution is working. And they are Frazia Kirwa. Could you just rise up and so that Kenyans can see, members can see you? Alex Kirwa, William Kungu, John Koros, and finally Jennifer Kogo. They are also largely relatives of our own Member of Parliament for Mosop, Abraham Kirwa. You probably would want to say 1 or 2 words, and then you want to say something briefly, and then you contribute on the motion also, because I can see your name in here.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and also getting an opportunity to recognize my relatives here who are visiting from America to see how Parliament actually operates. So thank you for that opportunity. And also for this opportunity to contribute to this motion on the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of the transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. Mr. Speaker, this motion is very timely. Africa has been considered as a place where all waste, either auction or inland, are dumped. We are going through a huge and a big problem in terms of climate change. And like a member mentioned a few minutes ago, that we have truly suffered as a nation in the last few months because of this issue of the climate change. And one of the issues, Mr. Speaker, that has contributed to a problem that we have is the dumping. Most of the transnational companies, they've chosen Africa as a place where you can dump anything and everything, just because we don't have systems that checks these hazardous waste that are brought in. We've mentioned computers, we've mentioned old phones, and many, many other things that end up in Africa and nobody checks on them. It is high time. We talked about the rate of cancer that has truly gone up in the last few years, and we ask ourselves, why a very big, sharp increase in cancer? It's because of waste like this that nobody talks about it, nobody controls it, and as such, this ratification of this Bamako Convention between the African countries is going to really, really help. As of now, we have 29 to 30 countries that are ratifying to accept to say no to hazardous waste in our country. So I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to support the committee for bringing this particular motion to allow us as a country to ratify it, accept it, so that for the future of our generations and our children, Kenya will be a safe place. Our oceans and beaches will be very safe. Looking back, Mombasa and most of the beaches used to be beautiful some years back, but going back now there, it is so sad to see most of the places have been polluted. It has been a lot of dumping, has been made to be a dumping site instead of beautiful beaches. So I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to support this motion of ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of hazardous products in Africa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Kibwezi West is Honorable Metusi here. The Honorable Member for Marakwet West. Is it East? Marakwet North. Order, honorable members. Marakwet West, yes.
Marakwet West, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to be on record as having supported this very good motion. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion on the ban of the importation of hazardous waste to Africa, and in particular, because we are ratifying it here, Mr. Speaker, in respect to Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this motion comes in at a very important time when Kenya is becoming a global champion in matters to do with environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, in this country, we have an extremely progressive constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 2.6 of our constitution provides clearly that any treaty or convention that has been ratified becomes part of the law of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, the effect of ratifying this convention means that Kenya, because a signatory, becomes part of the global community in matters to do with environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, we have no reason for not ratifying this convention because, Mr. Speaker, we would not benefit as a country from other international benefits that other countries that have ratified benefit from. So, Mr. Speaker, we also need to know that Africa is facing a lot of challenges in terms of exposure of chemicals because of global trade. And, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, that challenge must be curbed through process of ratifying such treaties. But, Mr. Speaker, even as in matters of procedure, I want to agree with the MP for Funyula, Mr. Speaker, that it is unfortunate that it is the first time that as a House we are encountering these international instruments. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the procedure of ratification, one, it is to do with negotiation of these international instruments. Number two is the signing of this treaty. Number three is the ratification. So, Mr. Speaker, this ratification comes in at the tail end, at the very end. So, Mr. Speaker, we must also as a House be on record so that when this document is being negotiated, the relevant committee of this House should be on the negotiation table. This document should be brought in the House before the final ratification so that the members of this House, Mr. Speaker, when we are here on behalf of so many elected people. We represent a lot of people in this country.
Do you wish to be informed by Honorable KJ?
Yes, Your Honor, I know he's a learned man, can give me the information.
Proceed, Honorable KJ.
Mr. Speaker, mine is a very kind nudging, and I did not intend to even interrupt the flow with which the Member of Parliament was flowing with because he was flowing very well. And he rightly said that there is a cohort of Members of Parliament who are interacting for the first time with international instruments. And that is very correct, Mr. Speaker. In fact, it is a matter that I had raised in the previous Parliament on how Parliament can be onboarded earlier in the conversation, not to be coming at the tail end when the ratification is happening. The truth of the matter is the procedure has been correct. This convention finds itself on the floor of this House in a very correct manner. It is only to add a voice to what the member is saying that yes, there does exist a legislative gap, and legislative gaps are only cured in this House. So maybe it is even a legislative opportunity for the honorable member to take up so that we can review how we ratify international treaties and acts before they get to the House. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to note that when Kenya was ratifying an agreement between itself and the UK bilaterally in the last Parliament, I did rise in my place and flag the same exact issue that the member has flagged, and he is rightly in his place to take it up as a legislative proposal. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you,
Honorable Member for Marakwet, I hope you are duly informed.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm duly informed, and I will take up the matter so that we initiate an amendment to that effect. Madam Speaker, what I was saying is, during the negotiation stage, it is very important that the members of Parliament in this House, the National Assembly in its totality, be part of the negotiating table, so that when the document is brought to the House, the members of this House will have full knowledge of this particular convention or treaty, so that when we are at the process of ratifying, then the members will have full knowledge of the same. Nonetheless, Madam Speaker, I stand to be on record as fully supporting the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban and importation of hazardous waste to Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Naomi Waku.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion on ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of the transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. Madam Speaker, this motion has come at the right time when, as a country, we are encountering lots of challenges as a result of this. And if you visit different counties in our country, many are the times you hear of sicknesses that people do not know how they have gotten, and especially cancer that is taking the lives of many Kenyans. And sometimes, even when you go to rural areas like where I come from, of late, many people die of cancer and other diseases that they may not even be able to get any medication on. And all that happens as a result of this motion that we are talking about today. Madam Speaker, it is high time, because God has given us this opportunity, it is high time for Kenyans, and especially for members of parliament, to stand up and say enough is enough, just as we are debating today. Because the Bamako Convention was first negotiated by 12 nations of the Organization of the African Unity, and it has come into effect since 1998. And even if it has been effective, many are the times we realize that waste management is not taken care of, and especially in Kenya, whereby even in small towns, even our own local waste management is not done in a good way. We have polluted our environment. We have destroyed the resources that God has given us. And if we want to overcome this, the only thing that we need to do is to take care of our environment, to stop the current pollution, and see how best we can take care of our land, so that the land can also take care of us. Our environment can also take care of us. I like the idea of us planting billions and billions of trees so that we can overcome some of the challenges. But unless we put our efforts together, unless we all develop the passion to do so, then we may not be able to realize. Madam Speaker, we know very well that as a country, we have enough policies in place. We have enough rules and regulations in place. We have all the things that we need, but unfortunately, implementation is not there. We have policies, and it is unfortunate that when it comes to implementation, we are not giving it any attention. Others come to our country, they learn from us, but they go and implement, and they improve their environment because of the passion they have, because of being committed to what they want to do. And our country has suffered because we have not given any attention to take care of our environment. Madam Speaker, many other times we invest a lot in our country so that we take care of in our dam site, but it is unfortunate that to date, many people, many people suffer because of the diseases that get into our environment as a result of that. With those few remarks, I can only say that if we want to revive our economy, if we want to revive our social life, if we want to revive our health sector and improve, we can only invest in our environment. And I support the convention. Thank you, and the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Marsabit. The Honorable Julius Meli, Member for Tinderet constituency. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion tabled by the Chair, Committee of Environment and Forestry. Honorable Speaker, I just want to say that the Bamako Convention, or ratification of the Bamako Convention, is actually supported by the laws of the land. Our Constitution clearly supports that international.
Bwana, tunakushukuru kwa sababu unasikia, na wewe ndiye Mungu wa kuleta mabadiliko. Tunasema asante Jehova, asante umetutunuku Jehova, hata na mvua kwa wakati kama huu. Wakati ambaye His Excellency the President of this Republic anaendelea akituhimiza kupanda miti, Bwana ukatubariki na mvua. Tunasema asante Mungu wetu, kwa sababu mvua inapokuwa katika nchi yetu Jehova, hakika tutapata chakula, na chakula itanyamasisha midomo nyingi Bwana, na hata wanyama wetu wataweza kupata chakula Bwana. Na hiyo tunasema asante Mungu wetu. Jehova Baba, tunasema asante kwa sababu ya familia ya mtoto wetu Dr. Chris Kipto. Tunasema asante kwa sababu hata siku ya leo wamefikiria kuja mbele yako kwa ajili ya shukurani Jehova. Baba, tunajua wewe Mungu unapenda shukurani Jehova, unapenda shukurani Mungu wetu. Ninataka kusema asante Jehova kwa ajili ya wakaaji wa kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet pamoja na vitongoji vyake, pamoja na watu wa Mutei kwa ujumla, na hasa watu wa Kapteren. Ninasema asante Bwana, hata tunapoendelea kwa mkutano huu mkusanyiko Bwana, ninakabidhi kila jambo mikononi mwako. Ninapoomba uwepo na uwezo wa Roho Mtakatifu apate kutamalaki mahali hapa katika jina la Yesu. Baba wetu wa mbinguni, anza pamoja nasi na hata utamatishe pamoja nasi, na kila sifa Jehova na kila utukufu Baba itakurudia Bwana. Tunasema asante tukiwa nchi ya Kenya Bwana, tunasema asante. Kimwae gongo Jehova, kimwae gongo Kiptayat, kimwae gongo Kamuktaindenyo, kilengongo ya kubalaitorianda niwe Jehova nekikoonechwe Kiptayat. Ngoye kinesongoliet ngoroni, iye kunyendet songoliet nekim en kainetab Jesu. Baba, tunasema asante, na ni katika jina la Yesu aliye Bwana na mkombozi wetu. Amen, amen, amen.
Asante sana. Tunaweza kuketi katika uwepo wa Bwana ninapokaribisha honorable wetu Birech aweze kutusomea neno katika jina la Yesu. Karibu sana mtumishi wa Mungu. Amen.
Asante. Tunapotulia wapendwa, tunapata somo kutoka kitabu cha Zaburi, Zaburi 118. Zaburi ya 118. The reading this afternoon is from Psalm 118. Anayesoma ni mchungaji Ben Birech. Nitasoma kwa Kiswahili. Haleluya. Mshukuruni Bwana kwa kuwa ni mwema, kwa maana fadhili zake ni za milele. Israeli na aseme sasa ya kwamba fadhili zake ni za milele. mlango wa Haruni na waseme sasa ya kwamba fadhili zake ni za milele. Wamchao Bwana na waseme sasa ya kwamba fadhili zake ni za milele. Katika shida yangu nalimwita Bwana, Bwana akaniita, akaniweka panapo nafasi. Bwana yuko upande wangu, sitaogopa. Mwanadamu atanitenda nini? Bwana yuko upande wangu, msaidizi wangu. Kwa hiyo nitawaona wanaonichukia wameshindwa. Ni heri kumkimbilia Bwana kuliko kuwatumainia wanadamu. Ni heri kumkimbilia Bwana kuliko kuwatumainia wakuu. Mataifa yote walinizunguka kwa jina la Bwana, naliwakatilia mbali. Walinizunguka kwa jina la Bwana, naliwakatilia mbali. Walinizunguka kama nyuki, walizimika kama moto wa miibani. Kwa jina la Bwana naliwakatilia mbali. Ulinisukuma sana ili nianguke, lakini Bwana akanisaidia. Bwana ni nguvu zangu na wimbo wangu, naye amekuwa wokovu wangu. Sauti ya furaha na wokovu imo hemani mwao wenye haki. Mkono wa kuume wa Bwana hutenda makuu. Mkono wa kuume wa Bwana umetukuzwa. Mkono wa kuume wa Bwana hutenda makuu. Sitakufa bali nitaishi, nami nitayasimulia matendo ya Bwana. Bwana ameniadhibu sana, lakini hakuniacha nife. Nifungulieni malango ya haki, nitaingia na kumshukuru Bwana. Lango hili ni la Bwana, wenye haki ndio watakao liingia. Nitakushukuru kwa maana umenijibu, nawe umekuwa wokovu wangu. Jiwe walilokataa waashi limekuwa jiwe kuu la pembeni. Neno hili limetoka kwa Bwana, nalo ni la ajabu machoni petu. Siku hii ndiyo aliyoifanya Bwana, tutashangilia na kuifurahia.
Mungu na hiyo habari, ni ule mtu ya kitendawili alishinda ama huyu Haslan ndiye alishinda?